in the heart of the rugged mountains, there lived a gold panner named Jake. With weathered hands and a heart full of adventure, he spent every spare moment searching for glimmers of gold in the sparkling rivers. The thrill of discovery drove him. Each panful of dirt could hide treasures beyond imagination. The sound of rushing water was music to his ears, and the sight of sunlight bouncing off golden flakes filled him with joy. Jake was known not just for his skills but also for his unwavering spirit. He had spent years perfecting his technique, learning to read the river's currents and understand where gold might hide. His trusty pan was always by his side, a simple tool that held the promise of riches. Yet, what mattered most to him wasn't just the fortune. It was the thrill of the chase and the beauty of nature surrounding him. Despite his solitary pursuits, Jake held a deep respect for fellow miners. He often shared tales by the fire under starlit skies, bonding over their dreams and aspirations. His friends admired his kindness and bravery, which made him stand out even more. Little did he know that on this fateful day, his courage would be tested in ways he never imagined as he stumbled upon something extraordinary and dangerous, hiding beneath layers of earth. As Jake continued his search along the riverbank, he heard a distant rumble that sent chills down his spine. The sound was unnatural, like thunder rolling through the mountains. Suddenly, debris came crashing down from a nearby slope, sending dust and rocks flying into the air. Startled but curious, Jake rushed toward the noise and found a scene that would change everything. Buried beneath a fresh landslide lay a prospector, his body partially covered by heavy stones and mud. Jake's heart raced as he realized the man was in grave danger. Panic rose in his throat as he called out for help. He knew time was of the essence. The man's face was pale, and only his hand was visible above the rubble, desperately reaching out for rescue. Assessing the situation quickly, Jake felt both fear and determination swell within him. He could not just stand by while another life was in peril. With adrenaline pumping through his veins, he began to clear away the debris with urgency. Each stone he moved felt like a race against time, as he feared that every passing second could be fatal for the trapped prospector. The danger of collapsing rocks loomed over him as he worked feverishly, unaware of how close trouble was about to get. As Jake frantically dug through the rubble, his mind raced with conflicting thoughts. The weight of rocks and soil piled high above the buried prospector was daunting, and he couldn't shake the fear that another landslide could bury him too. What if he put his own life at risk for someone he didn't even know? The mountains had their own rules, and they weren't kind to those who challenged them. Yet, as he glanced at the pale face and the desperate hand reaching out, Jake felt a surge of resolve. He thought of the miners he often shared stories with by the fire, how they valued bravery and friendship above all else. In that moment, the choice became clear. Turning away was not an option. He remembered stories of great heroes who had faced danger head-on, fighting against all odds to save others. Jake couldn't let fear dictate his actions. He was meant to be one of those heroes. Taking a deep breath, he renewed his efforts with even more determination. Each stone he moved felt like a promise to the trapped man, a promise that he would not give up no matter the cost. Focusing on the task at hand, he pushed those fears aside, driven by a sense of duty and the hope that together they could overcome this dire situation. With his heart pounding, Jake plunged into the task at hand. He knelt beside the debris, quickly assessing the situation to maximize his effectiveness. Grabbing a sturdy branch, he used it as a lever to carefully shift smaller rocks away, avoiding any sudden movements that could send more stones crashing down. Each time he cleared some debris, he shouted encouragement to the prospector, trying to keep his spirit alive. Jake's mind raced as he worked, recalling the techniques he had learned from other miners over the years. He found a small boulder that blocked access to the trapped man and decided to use his pan to scoop dirt away from it. With every scoop, sweat dripped from his brow, but he pressed on, fueled by determination. As he dug deeper, he noticed the prospector's hand seemed to twitch, a glimmer of hope. He realized he was running out of time, and the urgency pushed him further. Using his bare hands now, Jake clawed through the dirt, pulling aside rocks with all his strength. He paused to take a breath, wiping his forehead and letting out a grunt of effort. Finally, with one last shove, he felt the boulder roll away. The trapped man's face emerged, pale but alive. Jake's heart soared with relief as he reached down to clasp the prospector's hand, ready to pull him free. Just as Jake's heart swelled with hope, a distant clatter broke through the moment. The air grew tense as he turned to see a group of claim jumpers approaching, their faces twisted with greed and malice. With revolvers drawn and eyes set on the scene, they circled the pit like vultures waiting for a feast. Their intentions were clear. They wanted to lay claim to any gold that might be unearthed, and they weren't about to let a little thing like a trapped prospector stand in their way. Jake's stomach knotted at the sight. He knew these men were trouble. They were known for their ruthless tactics and willingness to use violence to get what they wanted. As they drew closer, the air crackled with danger. The leader, a tall man with a scar running down his cheek, smirked at Jake, clearly relishing the chaos he hoped to create. "Looks like you're in over your head, Panner," he taunted, his voice dripping with mockery. Jake felt a rush of anger but held his ground as he glanced back at the prospector, still struggling to emerge from the rubble. Despite the threat looming nearby, Jake's focus sharpened. He had to act quickly. Not only was a life at stake, but now his own safety was in jeopardy as well. The atmosphere grew thick with tension as the leader of the claim jumpers stepped closer, his revolver glinting ominously in the sunlight. "You think you can save that fool?" he sneered, taking a menacing stance. Jake could feel the heat of anger rising within him, but he remained focused on the task ahead. The prospector's life depended on him, and he couldn't let fear cloud his judgment. "Back off," Jake shouted, his voice steady despite the quaking of his heart. He positioned himself protectively over the pit, ready to defend the man he had fought so hard to unearth. The claim jumpers laughed, circling him like wolves sizing up their prey. It was clear they found amusement in his defiance. "Why don't you just hand over whatever gold you find?" the leader taunted, taking another step forward. "Or do we have to make this messy?" Jake clenched his fists, feeling the weight of their threats. He knew he was outnumbered, but retreating felt like giving up on the prospector. "You'll have to go through me first," he replied, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. The tension could be cut with a knife as both sides stared each other down, each waiting for the first move. Jake's grip tightened on a nearby rock, realizing that this confrontation was about more than just gold. It was about courage and survival. The standoff reached a boiling point, each side tense and poised for action. The claim jumpers shifted back and forth, their revolvers glinting like the promise of violence that hung in the air. Jake's heart raced. He could feel the heat of their glares drilling into him. He stood firm, sweat trickling down his forehead, every muscle in his body coiled like a spring. "Give it up, Panner," the leader taunted, stepping closer, his voice low and dangerous. "You can't win this fight. Walk away while you still can." The mockery in his tone cut deeply, but Jake would not waver. The group erupted into laughter, surrounding Jake with jeers and threats designed to intimidate. "Who do you think you are? A hero?" One of the men spat, causing the others to laugh even louder. They drew closer as if savoring the fear they were trying to instill. Jake clenched his fists tighter around the rock, feeling both anger and fear swirl within him. "I won't let you take what isn't yours," he shot back defiantly. Each word was laced with conviction as he prepared for whatever came next. The violence of their surroundings echoed in his mind. Rocks could tumble again at any moment during this chaotic confrontation. The tension thickened like fog closing in, and it felt as though time itself had stopped. Every breath heavy with impending danger as both sides waited for the spark that would ignite the conflict. Just as the standoff reached its peak, a group of fellow miners emerged from the trees nearby, drawn by the commotion. They had been working in a rugged section of the river when they overheard the threats being hurled at Jake. Seeing one of their own standing firm against the claim jumpers sparked a fire in their hearts. "Looks like trouble," shouted Ben, a burly man with an intimidating but friendly demeanor. He stepped forward, brandishing his pickaxe defiantly. "You're not going to take down our friend here," The claim jumpers paused, surprised by this sudden show of support. The miners rallied behind Jake, forming a tight circle around him and the pit, their faces set with determination. Together, they stood united against the threat, eyes blazing with resolve. "Back off while you still can," another miner added, gripping his shovel like a weapon. "We won't let you bully him or take what's not yours." The claim jumpers exchanged glances, realizing they were now outnumbered and facing a united front. The air crackled with renewed tension as both sides prepared for confrontation. Though this time, Jake felt empowered by his unexpected allies. With voices rising in defiance against injustice, the miners created an unbreakable bond fortified by shared experiences and values. Jake knew that together they could stand strong against any threat that dared to cross their path. The standoff reached its peak, the air thick with anticipation as both sides faced off. Jake stood at the edge of the pit, adrenaline coursing through him, while the claim jumpers eyed the surrounding miners with a mix of contempt and uncertainty. The leader's revolver gleamed menacingly in the sunlight, but Jake's newfound allies were equally determined, their resolve shining just as brightly. "Let him go," Ben shouted, gripping his pickaxe tightly, ready to spring into action. "We won't let you harm him or take what's rightfully his." The claim jumper's leader smirked, his confidence unshaken. "You think you can protect him? You're outnumbered," he snarled, glancing at his gang for backup. In that moment, Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. He could see the prospector struggling beneath the debris, and he knew there was no time to waste. "We don't need to fight," Jake called out, trying to defuse the situation. "This isn't about us. It's about saving a life." The claim jumpers hesitated, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. But then, one of them stepped forward, gun raised, ready to escalate the conflict. The tension was electric as Jake took a deep breath, feeling every eye on him. The fate of the prospector, and perhaps even his own, hung precariously in the balance, waiting for a single spark to ignite chaos or hope. In a moment that felt both eternal and fleeting, Jake took a deep breath and called out, "We're not here to fight. This man needs help." His voice rang with sincerity, cutting through the tension like a knife. The claim jumpers hesitated, and in that brief pause, the surrounding miners shifted slightly, ready to act if necessary. Seeing the resolve on Jake's face and the unity of his allies, the leader of the claim jumpers took a step back, unsure of how to proceed. "You think we care about your little rescue?" he scoffed, but his bravado began to wane. "Let's make a deal," Jake proposed, his voice steady. "If you back off now, we'll let you keep any gold we find from this site, but you leave him alone." The words hung in the air, offering a way out for everyone. After a tense moment of consideration, the claim jumpers exchanged wary glances. Finally, with a reluctant nod, the leader lowered his revolver. "Fine," he grumbled, "but this isn't over." With the threat dissipated, Jake rushed back to the prospector, his heart racing with gratitude as he pulled him free from the rubble. The prospector gasped for air, overwhelmed but alive. Surrounded by his fellow miners, Jake felt a swell of pride and relief wash over him. They had stood together against adversity. In that moment of victory, he understood that true wealth lay not in gold but in friendship and bravery. As Jake stood by the riverbank, watching the sun dip below the rugged mountains, a sense of calm washed over him. He reflected on the day's events, how fear had morphed into bravery, and how friendship had triumphed over greed. The Wild West was a place where danger lurked around every corner, and the allure of gold could easily twist hearts. Yet, in that moment, he realized it was not gold that defined a person, but their willingness to help others in need. The miners had come together, united not just by their desire for riches, but by their shared values of compassion and loyalty. Jake understood that true wealth lay not in shiny flakes of gold, but in the bonds formed through acts of kindness and bravery. The camaraderie displayed that day reminded him that sometimes, facing danger alongside friends could forge stronger connections than any treasure ever could. He glanced at the prospector, now recovering thanks to their collective efforts. The gratitude in the man's eyes spoke volumes about what they had accomplished together. Jake smiled softly, knowing that while the Wild West was filled with challenges, it was also a land where courage and friendship could lead to remarkable victories. In that spirit, he vowed to always choose kindness over greed, understanding that such choices would create a richer life for himself and those around him.